But the London Climate Change Agency, municipal company again, so following a similar format to Woking, except this time the owner of the company was the London Development Agency, which is one of the functional bodies of the mayor. And the reason for that is because there are huge economic development issues to do with this. Generates lots of jobs, and in London I was able to broker deals with manufacturers to build manufacturing or assembly plants. They wanted to take advantage of the green economy in London, but if it left them to their own devices, they'd have built their factory in Ireland or Slovenia or somewhere like that, where labour's cheaper. But you know, we got them to build in London. We had the development land to enable them to do that. You want to recycle plastics? We actually built and supported a company to build a plastics recycling factory. So it's no good recycling things if it's got nowhere to go to. So this is what was developed from the Climate Change Action Plan. For London, it needed to reduce emissions by 60% by 2025. 7 core programmes really, and this will apply to any city. Existing homes, much of the target that we got to do here is going to be in existing development, because new development represents about 1% a year. Planners tend to concentrate on that. Local authorities tend to concentrate on that because of that. But essentially, we've got to go in and retrofit is the biggest part of this challenge. Existing commercial and public sector, including their own buildings. New build and development, we must make sure that new build and development starts off as green. London energy supply, that was set to grow by 50% if we didn't do anything about it. And so key in the targets, there's a whole range of targets within those that programme I mentioned, was to take 25% of London's energy supply off the grid by 2025 and 53% by 2050. Why 53%? We reckon that the progress that was happening in the UK as a whole with decarbonising the grid was going to be about 47% by 2050. When we looked at renewable energy, we found that the largest resource of renewable energy was renewable gases. Now, this is something that you're not used to hearing. People tend to think about renewable electricity, wind, solar, and so on. But if you actually look, when we actually looked at London's waste, and I don't just mean commercial, industrial, and domestic waste, but also farming, agriculture, biomass, sewage, landfill, anything that was going, could all be converted into a gas. And not a gas just to generate electricity, but we developed technologies to liquefy that gas. We were able to transport gas from remote locations, so it didn't just generate electricity, to Trigen and transport. One of the first projects, in fact, was just down the road from where I live, right out in the Surrey Hills in the middle of nowhere, not near any electric or gas grid at all. We liquefied the gas there, and that was trucked into London. Liquefied gas has a very, very high energy density, so you can carry an awful lot of energy in a little tiny space. And if some of the London buses run off that gas, so that just gives you an example of what you can do. And of course, large-scale renewables for London. Again, people didn't think there was much in the way of large-scale renewables, but we now find, because of the work we did at the agency, that the largest wind energy generation in the world will be in the UK. Much of that will be placed in the Thames estuary. In fact, the largest wind farm in the world, called London Array, is 1,000 megawatts, and it's just one wind farm, and there are several others around that. So it just goes to show you that the waters off your shore have huge potential to generate renewable energy, whether it's offshore wind, marine current turbines, tidal, wave, and so on. Huge amounts of renewable energy can be generated. And of course, we wanted to future-proof that for the future hydrogen economy. Renewable gases developed through advanced gasification produce a hydrogen-rich gas that can be used in internal combustion engines or directly into fuel cells. So essentially, that sort of dealt with the business end, but we needed to get the policy and strategy right. One of the targets for new development was that new development had to have 20% renewable energy, otherwise it didn't get planning consent. There were some howls and screams from developers on that, but not from some of the big ones, because they were actually doing it already, and they saw it as a level playing field. You know, this is about those that wanted to push themselves out to do this. Originally it was 10%, but we very quickly increased that to 20%. So supplementary planning guidance, we worked with major developers to ensure that they were actually delivered that. They also had to put in decentralised energy. If there's air conditioning on the site, it had to be Trigen. If there wasn't, it had to be cogen. And of course we developed legislation to impose a statutory duty on the Mayor of London. Not a power. Power is something that you may or may not do. The duty is a bit like collecting rubbish. If you don't do it, you can be prosecuted. You can be taken to court by your ratepayers for failing to meet your duty. And Ken wanted to do that, and he was looking at a legacy thing. He recognised he wouldn't be mayor forever, so it was important that this work was carried on by following mayors, whether they wanted to or not.